The root cause of your pain might be more complicated than you think. I'm Rodger Duckworth, and for the last 30 years, I've helped people, often at the edge of despair, from their chronic pain and chronic illness issues, not only manage, but overcome them. I've seen over the decades many times people who really struggle with the idea that there may not be a single structure causing their pain. I understand why, and that's because it's simple to get our heads around and it's easy to understand. And I don't mean that to be patronizing or criticizing of people, and it's our job as therapists to help them understand. But systems thinking is important, I think, to understand the body, really. So what do I mean by systems thinking? Well, it's about how things relate to one another. It's like a car. It doesn't work just because it has wheels, or just because it has an engine, or just because it has a starter motor, or just because it has a steering wheel. It needs all of those components, and they all work beautifully together in one system to make it a machine. We are the same. However, we are amazingly more complex than a car, because we're living, breathing, biological, cells dying off, cells recreated, emotional, spiritual, psychological beings. And to simplify us down to a facet joint that is a little bit worn, a nerve root that's a little bit inflamed is, I'm sorry to say, a massive oversimplification, and it would be naive of us to assume that is just the root of your pain. I remember a long time ago a surgeon, a great surgeon actually, talking, and he said, well, the physios understand this, but to my junior doctors, just please remember, a fracture is only a broken bone in a soft tissue envelope. So what was he meaning there? Well, it's not possible to have a break to the leg or the arm without damaging lots of soft tissues around it. So it's never just the bone. What is it? Oh, it's a fracture. Yes, but it's more than a fracture. Yeah, and there are huge implications of that. There's the soft tissues around the bone, there's the muscles, there's the tendons, there's the nerves that may be inflamed, there's also all of the fear, there's the shock of the event that happened, there's all the implications of that upon your work, upon your livelihood, upon and all of that, then fear and concern adds on top. And frankly, anybody who feels that that's not part of them because they know their body and they know that psychologically there's no part, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You are simply wrong, because all of us are human beings with emotions and feelings. We know from the research, for example, that if you get tennis elbow and you're a self-employed carpenter, the chances are that your pain will be more problematic than if you're an opera singer. Why? Because the implications of that pain of, no, won't be able to work, I'm going to be, it's in there. But let's come back to this more simplistic mechanical idea. If we've got a nerve that's getting irritated because, if we've got some disc changes, which half the world have that have never felt pain, by the way, why does suddenly one day these problems start to give us pain? Maybe it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back, and actually we've sat more, or we've lost a little bit of tummy tone or something like that, and the body just goes, I can't cope anymore. But that sets up a chain reaction, and that's another idea to think about, is this chain reaction within the system. So let's say, for example, we've got some wear around a joint in the spine that's maybe had enough one day because we've just done something that's just added some extra stress to that area. It sets up an inflammation. That then irritates perhaps the nerve root, which may cause pain to be radiated down into the leg. The brain perceives that the muscles which are connected to that are hurting, even though there's no injury there. But our brain perceives, that's where the pain, I'm feeling it, because the nerve connects to those areas. It might even be that, okay, that's the sciatic nerve and it goes down to supply the calf muscle. So all of a sudden, the calf is now bracing and tight because it's experiencing pain. And if that goes on long enough, you've now then got changes within the calf muscle itself, and potentially trigger points and tension points and reflective kind of holding patterns, etc. That's going to then potentially mean that we limp and we alter the way we move, which then starts to add things back onto the stresses in the spine. And we have this system. So to then go, well, I've got a facet joint that's irritated, or I've got an inflamed nerve root. Well, is that all that you have? Oh, well, if we just put an injection around the nerve root, or if we just chop out that little piece of bone that's getting in the way, it will all get better. And the answer is often not. And that's why we see people that have these procedures done and then come for physio or other therapy afterwards, and we go, well, I don't understand. If they've dealt with the surgery, why have I still got this issue in my leg? Well, the answer lies in what I've just described. We're a system, and the minute that you start to topple one card, are we going to blame the one card that topples? The fact is they've all fallen over. So we need to deal with all of them. And that's why these tipping points often create things that mean that therapy needs to go on for quite a while, because we're not just dealing with one single label diagnosis. We're dealing with a system and a person and a human being.